Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for braving the rainy, cold weather outside. I've been tucked away safely in the library all morning, so I haven't experienced the worst of it today. But let me welcome you all to the third, and for this semester, final lunchtime lecture. Our speaker, Associate Professor Dominique Kassab-Tezgör, will in a few minutes speak on the subject of pottering along the Black Sea, Sinope and its ceramics workshops. Dr. Kassab-Tezgör is a native of Paris, and the disadvantage of that is if I have to pronounce any French in the next few minutes, please don't laugh. She studied at Paris at the Sorbonne initially, classical philology and archaeology. She received her thèse d'état from the Université des Sciences Humaines in Dijon. She spent a while teaching in the University of Chung-Ang in Seoul, South Korea, and came to Bilkent for the first time in 1992 as part-time instructor. In the year 2000, she became assistant professor in the Department of Fine Arts and was promoted to associate professor 4 years later. Her research subjects focus on two main areas from what I can see. She's interested in the terracotta figurines from Anatolia and Egypt during the Hellenistic and Roman periods, and as we shall see today, she's also worked more recently on Black Sea amphorae during the Roman times. Most significantly, she was the scientific director of the excavations at Sinop on the ceramic workshops in the 1990s, and we have some pictures we shall see shortly, but also some images that you can look at there in our display cabinet after the talk. She's published extensively numerous papers and has written 5 books in French, English, and translated into Turkish as well. And her work has received a number of awards and recognitions. She has an honorary doctorate from, again, no one's going to criticize my pronunciation of Georgian, the Stota Rutsaveli State University in Georgia. And she also received the Gustave Mendel Prize for one of her books from the Académie des Belles Lettres in Paris. Okay, I shall be quiet now, but the big question is, we are all looking forward, the non-archaeologists here, looking forward to finding out what exactly is an amphora, okay, and what was it used for, and I'm sure that, amongst other things, will be addressed by the talk. Okay, thank you.
Dear Bilkent colleagues and dear Bilkent students, also thank you, David. Your pronunciation in French and Georgian is very good. So now I would like to present the excavations that we have been doing since nearly 20 years in Sinop. Now the work is completed, and in a way this presentation is a conclusion and probably one of the last, or the last presentation of Sinop. So let us speak about Sinop. Of course, I will not insult you and tell you where is Sinop, but just, to show on the coast, the middle of the coast, and we are going to speak about this important position. Now, just a small parenthesis, because everybody is asking, okay, why Black Sea? So there are, in fact, different explanations, and I'm giving the one which looks the more interesting. First, it was called Pontus Euxinus, which means the hospitable sea. But in fact, this is probably a mistake, and the real name was Pontus Axenos, which we can find already in an antique writer in the 6th century BC. And this Axena comes from Persian, and it means dark. So this is why we have this translation of Dark Sea, which is Black Sea in French, Mer Noire in English. So this time I will not try. In Georgian you can read, and in Turkish, Karadeniz. So this is one explanation which makes sense. There is a second explanation, which is also interesting, is that every north, south, and so on were symbolized by a color. As a north, the symbol of north was black. So again, this is an interesting explanation. Of course, I don't have an answer which one is the right one. So, Sinop, of course, has a very exceptional position. It is a peninsula, and it has 2 harbors. And these harbors are the only good harbors, safe harbor in Black Sea. This is why it's such an important place for transportation and trade. So, a few views of Sinop. You maybe know that Sinop is place where Diogenes was born. So this is a funny sculpture that you can find in Sinop of Diogenes. We have also the best preserved remains are the wall that you can see here. And these walls are very interesting because when they have been constructed, many reused blocks has been put inside from the monuments which were making Sinop a very rich city. And I remind you that Sinop has also been the capital of the Pontus kingdom. So if we were going to make a repertory inventory of all these antique blocks from here, I don't see very well. I think you have, for example, here, you have a base here. These are also antique blocks. Then if we were going to make an inventory of all these blocks, maybe we could have some very interesting information about the monuments in Sinop. For example, we know from a text that it was an aqueduct. This is a text of Plinius. So he said that Trajan, the emperor Trajan, will make an aqueduct to give water to the people. And by chance, bulldozer has been making the road. So bulldozer is something very useful for archaeologists. So in two places, we could find the channel of this aqueduct. And from old postcards also, you can see the arches of that aqueduct. Now it has disappeared. Among the important remains, we have the so-called Mithridat Palace, because Mithridat Eupator, the big Mithridat, was born in Sinop. We have also a Byzantine church with some frescoes. And we know from Strabon that it was a rich area with a lot of resources, among which was timbers to make boats, for example. So you have some ideas here. And one important resource was pyramids, which are, in fact, palamute nowadays. And I couldn't resist from because palamute, I mean the pyramids where the eggs are done in the Azov Sea, and then they are turning along the coast, and when they reach Sinop, this is the best place to fish them. And then I cannot resist from giving you the recipes how to cook palamute in the antiquity from Apicius. I didn't try. I'm a bit afraid to put honey with these recipes, but maybe one day I will try. So now let us go to the work which we have done in Sinop. This work was sponsored by the French Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Cultural Department, and we received a very important sponsorship from Cavac-le-Déré Charap-Lareux for the cave of Cavac-le-Déré, because we are going to see amphoras. You put wine on amphoras, so this is why we received that sponsoring. So the hypothesis, I mean, we started from one hypothesis. It is known that on the amphoras and on the tiles, it was some stamps. And maybe 20,000 stamps has been found all around the Black Sea. So Yvon Garlor, who is a professor in France and specialized on stamps, had the idea to look for the workshop. Because if we look for the workshop, of course, we shall have much more information about stamps and about the shapes of amphoras. So this was the hypothesis from which we have been started our work. So we did a survey, and you can see that actually we found many workshops, and we excavated on the peninsula a workshop from the Hellenistic period. Yvon Garlor excavated that workshop. And then south of Sinop, 15 kilometers from Sinop, myself with the Museum of Sinop, we did excavations of Roman workshop. So first we did a survey, and you will ask, how do you know, how are you sure that it was a workshop? where the answer is relatively simple. First of all, a lot of threads, a lot of pieces of ceramic of the same type, and also some over-fired pieces. This workshop was huge. I mean, you can see it start here and it goes up to here. So it was impossible to excavate everything. You know, excavation, you need time and you need money. So you have to, to really know where to make your hole. So this is why we did a magnetic survey here, and in each actually spot, it's true that we found usually kilns. Sometimes we were not so happy. We found only pitoi, but you cannot always win. And this is another area, again with kiln, pitoi, and also big buildings. So I will speak about the kilns and the amphoras, which were produced in these kilns. So this is some images of kilns. And I would like to describe how the kilns were done, because this is what we found out with our excavations. So you have a room in the down part, which is called the heating room. And then you have pillars that we found here. We have some support, which were on top of the pillar. And then these supports were carrying the what is the name? The place. I mean, the floor of the kiln, on which they could put the amphoras. So this is an example of a kiln. Now, if you look at the ground plan, you have the kiln here, the two pillars, and an entrance. In this entrance, the fire was put. So you have the fire here, and the heat is coming here and circulating in the kiln. These kilns, when we excavated, they were full. So they were full, in fact, with this type of elements, like bottles, which were on top of each other. And we have understood that these bottles were used in order to make the dome of the kiln. So these are some reconstitution. You see that they have a curve. I mean, the shape is like a curve. And then we did a small maquette. So actually, maybe you cannot see here, but this maquette is made, the dome is made with noodles, because actually the noodles were the exact size of the right scale to make the dome. So, which means that you can always find a way, I mean, everywhere. So this is now the reconstitution of the kiln. So here the fire circulating in the heating room, the floor of the upper room, which is the firing room, where the amphoras were put, and thanks to this hole, the heat from the down part was going up. So we were absolutely sure that this was a workshop of amphora, that this kiln were making amphoras, because you see that we found a lot of over-fired amphoras. By the way, this one, which is so ugly, was called by the student Quasimodo, and I feel that he carries the name in the proper way. So we tried to understand how was our material. So we found out that it was two types of clay, one red, one white, and each clay was related to a specific period and to some specific shapes of amphoras. And also, thanks to analysis in the Department of Chemistry in Bilkent, and actually you will see that this work has been involving many Bilkenters, many people from Bilkent. So Professor Hassan Erten was kind enough to organize a program, and we found out that the red clay and the white clay, in fact, were from the same origin. It was the same clay, it was just a question of firing. More a clay is fired, more the color is turning to white. So then what happened, it's a workshop, so everything is broken, of course. So we put all our pieces in orders, we tried to organize everything. Then we went in all the museums to find the shape, completed shape. So I'm giving some example of Museum of Black Sea Coast, Turkish Black Sea Coast, and we could make the reconstitution of our amphoras. So we have some pink clay, which is this shape, some red clay here, and white clay here. This is 1st century AD. This is 4th and 5th century AD. This is 6th and 7th century AD, which means that we have for every century a different shape, and also we have a different technique because it goes from red to white. And also these amphoras, we find coins in order to date. So these amphoras also are giving us the chronology of our workshop, when this workshop was working. So here are some examples. Red clay. These amphoras are relatively famous. They are called carrot amphora, havuç amphorası. Maybe it's not very imaginative, but at least the description, it shows from the shape. These are the white clay amphoras. And now, a small parenthesis. The shape of the amphoras are not just by chance. These amphoras, we must look at amphoras only like containers, I mean like a box, in fact. So they have to be carried, and they are very heavy. So this is why, for example, here you have a kind of curve, because it's very easy to put on the shoulder. Or, when they are smaller, you have some rounded edge, then you can just carry like that. And it's easy to carry, even, I mean, I can carry it, so I mean, it's... so every shape, now I cannot go into details, but every shape has a reason to be. And also, every shape is characteristic to a workshop, but this can be questioned, as we shall see, because in fact, we found the same shape. We know this one is made in Sinop, but this is not from Sinop. This is from Kolkis, which is Georgia nowadays. And this one is from Sinop. This one is not from Sinop, but we don't know from where, which means that it was some imitation. Now, why imitations? It's a large discussion. It can be because they want to make, let's say, a fake wine or a fake olive oil, but it can be a more simple reason. Just these shapes are handy. So then they are copying a shape which is easy to be carried. So the next step of our work, we identified, then we have, of course, to see the trade of Sinop. So it is difficult to find the trade. We cannot go in all the amphoras of the world, obviously. And all the amphoras are not published, so we can only take the information that we can find. So when we are in this shape, which is probably the first shape produced in red clay, we have this distribution. When we go to our carrot amphoras, we have this distribution. So we really see a change in the trade. When we go to the 6th and 7th century, then we have again a different picture. We have, and now in fact this map we could, I could have added some more. We have amphoras in the Mediterranean Sea, but Black Sea we have less, which is quite surprising. Maybe it is just a lack of information. But let's say we can see an evolution between the types and then between the periods. So trade, of course, Sinop, as I said, the position in the Black Sea as a peninsula is very favorable for trade. On top of it, if you look Sinop, compared to the other side, it is close by everywhere. This is a privileged position that Sinop is sharing with here Chersonesus. So the position is the right one for trade. But also now how they were going. Well, they were going through the coast, or only a direct line from Sinop to Crimea, because as you know, the Black Sea is a very difficult sea. So this is why they couldn't go anywhere as they wanted. So they were usually following the coast or going straight. And this is so difficult actually that there are a lot of wrecks. So we did a very short survey. We found wrecks of amphoras and of tiles. And what is interesting that these amphoras and these tiles were done in the workshop that we have been excavating. A survey also, more important, has been done by an American team. I will speak about that later on. And actually, just by chance, from the plane, I took this photo. And you can see here, this is the workshop. And only from the plane, when you are on the soil, you cannot see it. In fact, there is a kind of structure under the water. And probably this was a place where they could export the amphoras. So probably they were the departure was from this place. Probably. Of course, we should make an underwater survey. Now, just to speak about other productions, Sinop was not the workshop that we have been excavating, was not only producing amphoras, it was also producing pitoi, with a different, interesting way of constructing the pitoi, because it's huge. I mean, this is my size, bigger. So they had to put pieces together. So they had a system of tenon and mortise here for the rim. This one is broken, and also for the body. And by the way, we were speaking about Dionysos. So Dionysos is usually represented in a wooden barrel. But of course this is wrong, because the barrel was not existing and Dionysus was staying in a pitoi. So here I found just by chance yesterday a reproduction of the painter Jérôme. So this is a pitoi and this is our Diogenes in the pitos. So now a bit quickly, just for information. This workshop was also producing tiles. We have a beautiful proof. You see these overfired tiles, so we are sure. And tiles and also cover for the tiles, like this one, which is a shape, I would say, immortal, because still nowadays, I mean, this is a shape which is used on the roofs. Also, they were producing so-called mortar and some ceramic for table service or cooking. They were making lamps. These lamps were not exported, at least I didn't find any lamps nowhere. The ceramics, the mortar were exported. The lamps I didn't find, but they give us very interesting information, as well as these supports. These supports are done to put the amphoras while they were turning the amphoras. And we learned that at that period they were Greek and they were Christian. I remind you that we are between the 2nd and the 7th century, 6th, 7th century AD, and St. Andrew went to Christianized that area in the 2nd century AD. So here, for example, we are Greek because we have a signature, it's very interesting, it's maybe unique, is Yorgos. So we know, at least you even know the first name of a potter is Yorgos. And then here you have some cross. Here as well, you have a chrism, I mean the Christian symbol. Also you have a palm, Christian symbol, you have cross. And here you have something interesting that I just want to mention. This is a fish. So the fish is a Christian symbol, but also the fish can be the dolphin, and dolphin that we see on the stamps of amphora, which are a symbol of Sinop. So I mean, we have two possibilities to understand why we have this fish. Again, I don't have an answer. Now we wanted to make a pluridisciplinary work. This is why we did some analysis of charcoal, analysis of pollen from the plants, and then we could understand which tree were used at that period. So we have oak, we have pine, and many others. And then also with the density, we can more or less make a reconstitution of the landscape. Nowadays, this is a landscape. I mean, there is no tree. But before, probably it was with more trees. So let's say it can be a reconstitution, something like this. The workshop could look like that. So when the workshop was stopped to work, probably 6th or 7th century AD, then we found on top of the kiln, which means that it is a later period, we find this stone which are used for press. So, and we have 3 in this area. So they were for wine or for olive oil. We are not sure. Could be olive oil because we know that it was many olive trees in Sinop, on the east of Sinop. And this is a reconstitution. So after making amphoras, they have been changing the industry and they have been making wine. So here, this is a summary of the excavation done in Sinop. The first one was the 50s, then there is a big lack of big gap, and then in 94, then excavation has been multiplied. We have our excavation, and we have also British excavation, a church, and we have also the American project, and they did here some underwater survey. This one is still going on, and then a new excavation is open in Sinop since 2010 in the church Balat that I've been showing to you at the very beginning, which means that now the interest on Sinop is growing, and I hope it will continue. So because so many people has been working, so we organized in 2009, and some of you came, we organized a symposium, international symposium, with all the new informations. And for example, all the graphic work has been done by Mariusz Szlacik, which is from the graphic department. So, I mean, this is how Bilkent has been involved with many friends. And then in the workshop of Ahmet Salah, who is the head of the ceramic studio, then we decided to reconstruct a kiln. Why? Because the site of the workshop is slowly going to the sea. There is a sliding of land, there is nothing to do. So all the site is disappearing, is going away. So then we had to keep a memory of that site. This is why we decided, with the collaboration of the Ministry of Culture and with the kind authorization of Professor Özgüç, we decided to make a new kiln, and the students, under the direction of Ahmet Osala, the students have been recreating, redoing, with the same technique as the Antiquité, all the pieces of the kiln. So we even make an open door workshop. And then in the museum, the kiln has been reconstructed. So I cannot go into details, I prefer just to show the slides. So this is for the dome. Here, this is antique pieces. And then it has been constructed part by part. And this is now what you can see, the kiln is completely reconstructed, identical to the antique one, and it is permanently exhibited in the Museum of Sinop. We also did the typology on the wall, the main amphoras, which you can see here, in order to be didactic, let's say. So this is an exhibition. And then this amphoras is getting a symbol, is becoming a symbol of Sinop. So a huge carrot amphora, again our havuç, so this huge carrot amphoras has been done and is at the entrance of Sinop in front of Diogenes. So of course we are very proud, I mean, to be an amphora next to Diogenes is very rewarding. Also, something which is important, let's say this is our contribution to the city of Sinop. I mean, we didn't want to work only for a small group of specialists. So, one contribution is that now a modern workshop is open in Sinop. So this is an Ottoman battery. So inside this Ottoman building, ceramists came from Avanos, and now he is giving a class of pottery. I mean, people are making pottery in Sinop. So the pottery became again a symbol of the city. Now, as a conclusion, I would like to say, I think, yes, I'm on time. So I'm sorry, I went a bit quickly, but I wanted to give a general idea of what we did, not to go into details. So now just a small talk. Sinop has been a very important city, not only in antiquity. We shouldn't only focus ourselves on antiquity. It was also important in Seljoukid period, in Ottoman period. In modern period, it's a bit maybe problematic, but I hope it will improve. You still find in the city of Sinop some wooden houses which are really very nice, beautiful, but not in very good conditions, but they are getting restored. You also find a lot of fountains, Ottoman fountains. Some of the fountains, I think I didn't put that one on the slideshow, some are also reusing some old blocks from monuments. And also, fishing is one of the main occupations of Sinop. Actually, in winter, you find only in Sinop all people are fishermen, because the industry is going down. So here are some examples of the fish boat. And which is interesting, like in the antiquity, Sinop was known for constructing boats. Nowadays, one of the small symbols of Sinop as well are this maquette of boats. So, I mean, if you go to Sinop, of course, I mean, it's a must, you buy one maquette, because, I mean, this is what you find now in Sinop, maquettes or small amphoras. So, the fish is still something very important, as I said, for trade and also for local consumption. And when you eat your fish, you eat in a very nice harbor, like this one. So this is why actually I invite you to go to Sinop, to see the museum, to see the kiln, but also to have a good time drinking something which will be, which was in amphoras, and also which will match with the fish which were taken by the fishermen. Thank you for your attention.
Well, there you see, when you come to these library lectures, you don't just get intellect. Okay, we have 10-15 minutes or so available, so if anyone has any questions for Dominique, we have time to take a few. Anyone want to start us off? Archaeologists or others? Okay, question here.
There were any basement metal bars at the bottom of these potteries, or modern people have made this to put down in it?
In fact, the amphoras mainly live in amphoras.
Metal stands.
Metal stand, yes. So amphoras actually are used for transportation. So they were not put standing up. But probably when they were used to stand up in a house, when we used, they said not for trade, but to contain something in the house, probably they were put or a wooden stand, it's true, or they were just put in the soil. So they were put standing up in the soil, probably. But the first reason to make amphoras is to carry something inside as a container. This is why we have this pointed bottom, which on the board, then you can put them next to each other before putting sets. Did I answer your question? Yeah.
Question? Yeah.
I have a question about the raw material. Is Sinop rich with the raw material? Did they get the raw material from afar, or is it close by?
Yes.
Can you give us some information about the raw material?
Sure. Actually, I should have said when I presented the workshop. The workshop is done on clay. The earth of that workshop is clay. So they have the clay on the spot. And then also characteristic of Sinop is the black sand. So there are some beach with black sand, so they have also the temper on the spot. And there are also some natural sources of water. So I mean everything was on the spot in order to make the amphoras. And then I will see from the flame. Also it looks like it was a small farm.
I have a question about the Black Sea. You said there were a lot of shipwrecks in the Black Sea, and you also mentioned that it was a difficult sea. Could you maybe just explain a bit more about that?
Yes, the usual explanation which is given, that there are two currents, I mean one coming from the top, one down in a different direction. So it makes the sea difficult. And then when there is a bit of tempest or a bit of wind, then immediately it becomes rough. And I think in Turkish you have a saying, when someone has a very bad face and looks very thoughtful, you say, did your boat fall in the Black Sea? I think you have something like this in Turkish. So I mean, this tradition, it looks like really, it's known that Black Sea is a difficult sea. Now, I don't have more scientific explanations, but the main reason given that these two currents are going in opposite sides.
Any questions? I have a question myself. I've never asked one, I don't think, of these things, but I'll give everyone else a chance first. Anyone else?
One more question.
Okay, well,
I'm sorry.
I tell you first, and then Julie will go alphabetically.
Okay, thank you. Could you trace the amphora from Sinop in other museums, other spots around Black Sea and other points of the road, and also around Mediterranean Sea? Could you see distinctively that the particular amphoras are from Sinop? Could you detect any remaining amphoras in museums or spots in the Mediterranean and other areas of Black Sea?
So, according to the period that I've shown the map, we find amphoras in Black Sea and Mediterranean in more or less big quantities. We are sure that they are from Sinop because the clay of Sinop is very distinctive and the shape. So there are some copies, as I showed, but still, because of the texture of the clay, when you look at a piece of clay, you don't look only the color, you have to look at the texture. So all the temper inside the clay, plus the shape, are showing that for sure they are from Sinop. There is no doubt about that. So we found, many spots of Black Sea, in Mediterranean Sea, Lebanon, Israel, Jordan, and Syria. And then we also found, I didn't see them, but I got the information that they are in Italy. So since these amphoras are not very well known yet, so of course, we don't know everything which has been found, but I will tell you a small story in 1 minute. For example, in Tanais, which is in Russia. So I was surprised that no amphoras from Sinop, and logically should be some amphoras. And then I saw a box which was, a shoe box, and on the shoe box it was just a drawing, something like a point. And this reminded me the bottom of a carrot amphora. So I said, this is what? And in fact, there were carrot amphoras from Sinop. But because these types are not known, then they are just put in somewhere, and and they are not studied. So I think that if there are students who want to make a new thesis, it will be a beautiful topic. You see, I'm already trying to get some followers. I mean, it will be a beautiful topic to find out the roads, I mean, but in a more detailed way. And we need to be young and to go everywhere. So, and to be sure, I mean, to find where these amphoras were done with statistics.
Julian? Is there any evidence for classical period fish processing around Sinop?
Sorry, any
evidence for fish processing, like garum, salmon?
So I don't have a good answer for you because we should make some analysis, of course, inside the amphoras. But we have, let's say, two elements. One is when you have a big amphora with a very wide mouth, rim, you can assume that it was for fish, salted fish. And then also, this I didn't mention, there is resina inside some amphoras. So the resina was used or for wine, never for oil, or to put fish sauce, garum. So this is why we have some indication that fish were inside the amphoras, but we don't have, except one amphora which was found, but it's not an amphora from Sinop. It was found by Bob Ballard, actually, with fish bones, but they were not from Sinop. We don't have more information about the fish processing, unfortunately.
Any other questions? Any other points? I myself was interested in the distribution maps that you had, changing patterns and so on. Obviously the last one looked very different, but we're into the sort of Byzantine period. Things are very different in the Roman world and post-Roman world then. Can we explain that according to kind of historical factors and so on, rather than commercial, local reasons? I don't know what you think of that.
Now you put your finger on a very difficult point, because first let me say that this workshop was finished, didn't work anymore in the 7th century AD. Why? This doesn't correspond to any element historical fact. And then also this distribution, I mean, I couldn't find any proper explanation, historical explanation for this change of distribution. But again, I'm not sure if the northern, the 6th, 7th century, I'm not sure the northern of the Black Sea was so empty of amphoras. Maybe again it's a lack of information. I didn't find the shoebox containing that.
More research is necessary. Okay, well let's call things to a close. Again, let us please thank Associate Professor Dominique Kassab-Tezgör for her very enlightening talk. I would also like to thank all of you for coming. Also, I'd like to thank the library staff who work very hard in various ways to make sure these talks go well. And finally, I wish you all a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, and look forward to seeing you next semester for our next lecture. Thank you.